locked in to the hottest station on the planet.
Resistance is futile. The revolution has begun.
You're listening to Rebelpreneur Radio, helping you break the rules and build the business you need for the life you want. And now, broadcasting his pirate signal
from somewhere beyond the status quo,
here's your host, best-selling author, marketing and media strategist, Ralph Brogden.
Hello and welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio. It's the business you need so you can live the life you want. I'm Ralph Brogden. Well, I have heard it said that success leaves clues. And I've also heard it said that there are no shortcuts to success. But if success leaves clues, then I think there is a shortcut to success, and that would be finding successful people and modeling their behavior. My next guest believes that there are common traits of many winners that he has worked with or met. And so we're going to talk today about the importance of ongoing learning for long-term success. My guest today is Dan Casetta. He is a record-setting sales executive who has powerfully shaped the culture of a large international organization, the Cutco Vector Marketing Sales Team. He's a national speaker, a best-selling author, podcast host, and Dan loves learning and sharing good ideas. So you're in the right place. Dan Casetta, welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio.
Thanks, Ralph. I appreciate being here.
It says that you are a record-setting sales executive. That can mean a lot of things. Give us some perspective on your background, and when we're talking about record setting, give us a sense of what sales volume are we talking about so that we can get a great vision in our mind of your expertise.
Sure. Thanks, Ralph, for asking that. So my day-to-day role these days is I am the Western Region Manager for the Cutco Vector Marketing Sales Organization. And Cutco Vector is the largest recruiter of college students in America, as far as we know. There are tens of thousands of young people who come into the Vector program on an annual basis. So over the years, there have been, somewhere between 1 and 2 million people who have sold Cutco. And as I grew up in the business, I became the most successful field manager in the company. And I started as a 17-year-old kid. I can tell a little bit more about that story a little bit later on. But after I graduated from college, I took on the role of being a district manager with the company. And over a period of 15 years, grew the largest, most successful sales organization. So we had my office was in San Jose, and we achieved things like there's a 2-week sales contest in the company, and we were the first to ever sell $100,000 in that 2 weeks on our team. A few years later, we were the first to ever sell $100,000 in a single week. And then that 2-week sales contest, we elevated that to $250,000 in 2 weeks. And all told, I've been responsible for somewhere verging on $200 million in Cutco sales at this point. And there's a number of other, different records that I've broken, whether it be for a week or for a year in the company. Have also the office that I ran was number 1 in the company 5 times in an 11-year stretch, during which nobody else was number 1 more than once during that stretch. So, fairly strong showing in comparison to a lot of other really amazing young executives who have grown up in the company.
I would say that's very impressive for anyone, anywhere. Especially a lot of small business owners who are still trying to make their first 6 figures in a year. And you're saying you and your team have done $250,000 in 2 weeks and topping 200 million. That's very impressive. For those who aren't familiar, tell us what Cutco sells. What is your product and who is your prospect?
Yeah, sure. So Cutco sells a high-end line of American-made kitchen products. The primary product is Cutco knives, Cutco cutlery. It's a very simple product, and it's sort of deceptively simple in that so many people have built such great businesses and great lifestyles based on starting out with the Cutco business when they were, when they were college students or when they were younger. The typical customer is the average American family. That's who we target. That's who we sell to. And students that work with us get a chance to gain experience in connecting with people, in presenting ideas, closing sales, prospecting, building a clientele, managing their time, setting goals, all of the things that are translatable to virtually every career that they might have after they work with Cutco. So it's a great proving ground for successful people from all walks of life, and gives people an awesome chance to learn a lot about business and life at a young age.
Very interesting. And I guess it's a lot like sports psychology. What's the benefit of playing on a team and being part of organized sports? Well, it's more than just playing the game. It's all of the ancillary benefits that come, the learning teamwork and communication and setting and achieving your goals. And so in your case with Cutco, it's more than just selling knives and things and the tools. It's more than just the product. It is the psychology of success. And as I said, bringing you in, success leaves clues. We can learn the common traits of winners, and we can duplicate that success. So what you have participated in and managed and led is a record-setting, successful sales organization. What can success like that be taught to anyone? Are there born salespeople, or do you train them and make them?
The answer is definitely the latter. Now, we're all born with certain traits or qualities, personality traits, let's say. These are things that we are born with, but developing those into being successful is certainly something that can be learned by anyone. We have taken people from all different, socioeconomic backgrounds, all different college majors, and helped them to learn how to succeed and how to do well in the company. So I do feel like the traits that make people successful are learnable by anyone and can be taught for sure.
So usually I frame our conversations in terms of a problem that you solve and a self-help process that you deliver for the customer or the client. In this case, I think it's more useful to look at the most common problem you see with the people that you recruit and that you're trying to train to become salespeople according to your success methodology. Because I think that lesson will translate well into other business leaders, business people who are maybe not trying to build a $200 million sales organization, but they just like to get to 6 figures a year and maybe 7 figures a year. So they're building and scaling their business. What's the biggest hindrance to people really becoming successful in sales, in business, and in life?
Wow, that's such a deep question, Ralph, and there's so many directions that we could go with that one. So what I find is that, in Cutco, we typically recruit people who are 18, 19, 20 years old. And I find that a vast majority of them come in hungry to learn, with big aspirations in life. But the gap between who they are today and the kind of person that is capable of the success that they want down the road is fairly large. And we help them to bridge that gap by gaining skills and experience in all of those areas that I referenced a little bit earlier, in this conversation. So the problem I see, if you want to frame it as a problem or opportunity, I guess you could say, is that there's a lot of things people have to learn if they want to be a superstar executive, if they want to be a top salesperson, if they want to be in the top 1% in their field. They have to obviously gain skills that are commensurate with being in that top 1%. And over my life, I've spent years building relationships with amazing achievers in business and in life, both within the Cutco business and outside the Cutco business here where I live in Silicon Valley. And I've spent a lot of years accumulating good information, valuable insights. I love to share. And so in my role, I run my Cutco organization, but then I also share willingly and freely the information I've gained in various ways with people outside of the Cutco business as well. So there's a big opportunity for people in the area of learning, personal growth, becoming more. I love the Jim Rohnism that success is not something you pursue, it's something you attract by the person you become.
I love that.
What I try to get a young person thinking about is, what type of person do I need to be in order to have all of the success that I want? And we try to show people examples of people, again, either in our business or people who are alumni who are now out of our business, who are doing incredible things, and help showcase what are the skill set that they have developed that has helped them get to where they are. And we try to help our reps see that selling Cutco is a great vehicle for gaining that skill set, as they're young, that they can parlay into bigger and better things down the road.
That's such a great philosophy. It's about building people. It's not just giving them a sales technique or some tools and putting them through a weekend sales training and then, okay, Tiger, go get them, go knock on doors or whatever it takes. But what you're talking about, Dan, is asking the question. And I think anybody could ask this question and immediately begin to see a paradigm shift. What kind of person do I need to be to achieve the kind of success that I want to achieve? And that's really the $200 million question. So what are some of those characteristics of the common traits of many of the winners that you have worked with, either within your organization or outside? Is there a handful of traits that that will generalize to people who are successful?
Yeah, there certainly are some common traits or characteristics that lead to success. I would say that it starts out with people need to learn the importance of setting goals, of having an idea what they want, defining what they want. Most people sort of go through life drifting, right? What they're gonna do tomorrow, whatever they do today, and what they do today is what they did yesterday. And if they sort of drift along, they do what's easy, they take the path of least resistance, and this doesn't usually lead to anywhere great. After 5 years or 10 years, someone might look back on their life and say, well, geez, what have I been doing? Well, why don't I have what that person has? Right? Well, that other person that they admire very likely set some goals that they wanted to achieve, maybe initially small goals, and they worked toward those goals. They achieved them sometimes. They failed other times. They got corrective feedback when they failed, and they improved and learned. And then eventually they hit more of their goals. And over time, they up-level those goals to equate to where they want to go in their life. And they eventually achieve more and more success, and they achieve the admiration of so many others around them in that process. So this whole idea of just setting goals and knowing what you want is a critical element. I think great achievers are also really good at connecting with people. And there's so much that goes into that. Like that could be a whole nother conversation, but learning how to connect with others is critical. I do feel like influence is a very important thing. And one of the things that we try to tell people is that everything is selling. Many of our reps that sell Cutco for a summer or for a couple of years during college, they might not end up specifically selling a product per se later on down the road. Some might get into real estate sales or medical device sales or pharmaceutical sales, but many others don't. But they're always selling ideas. They're always selling themselves. And it's critical to have the ability to influence. There's a lot more to it than just being able to present ideas. You got to have the ability to take someone past, being hesitant about an idea to actually acting on it. And I think that's important. I'd probably add two others, Ralph. I would add work ethic as a critical element of success. And it's not about working 80 hours. But I read a phrase in the book, The 12-Week Year, which the phrase was greatness in the moment. And that phrase really struck a chord with me. Greatness in the moment. Are you able in a moment to make the decision that is consistent with what you want, with your values, with what you said you're going to do today? Or do you succumb to how you feel? I don't feel like doing it. And then lastly, I would say attitude is everything, and that the most successful people have an ability to take any situation and handle what comes up in a positive manner, stay focused on what they want, where they're going to go, handle adversity without carrying it forward. That to me is one of the most critical pieces of success, because if you're setting big goals, by definition, those goals are hard and you're going to experience some failure. And you have to be able to deal with that if you want to be successful at a high level.
Wow. Dan, I got to tell you that vignette there of the four things that you just shared with our listeners, I think that's worth $200 million right there. Just that wisdom that you have gained and that you have shared with our listeners is so important. It's all about the very things you said, learning the importance of goals, a vision, defining what it is that you want. And that's the tagline of this show, helping you build the business you need so you can live the life that you want. But if you don't know the life that you want, how can you build a business to deliver that life? Because you don't even know what you want. So it's so critical. And then connecting with people. It's about ideas and influence. And that really is what motivated me. I started out in marketing, selling products and services, but I became interested in strategic communication as a profession and even as an academic career, because I'm interested not just in selling products and services, but selling ideas and using influence in a positive way to change the world. And then just what you said, the work ethic, the discipline to get up and do every day the things that you don't feel like doing, but the things that you know have to be done in order to get to where you want to get. That separates the amateur from the professional. And then attitude. How do you deal with adversity? How do you deal with setbacks? Becoming resilient in the face of negative circumstances. And the more you do these things, the more you build self-efficacy, which this is Bandura's theory of belief in yourself. When you're living in your head all of the time, in a theoretical existence, and you never put yourself out there, you never swing the bat, you never hit a home run, everything is theoretical. But when you get out there and you actually start swinging the bat, you're not going to hit every single pitch, but you're going to hit some. And as you do, your confidence begins to grow. And I'll tell a quick story to change the metaphor from baseball to golf. I'm not a golf player, but at one time I lived in a place where I had access to a country club. And my cousin is a big golf player, so I would bring him in. And we would go out and he would try to show me how to swing the golf club. Well, my self-efficacy when it comes to swinging a golf club is like zero. I had no self-efficacy at all. I had no belief in myself that I could do this. It is hard. It is very difficult. And he would just get out there and just wail on that ball and it would go and sail. And I swung the club a few times. I hit the ball a few times. Most of the time I missed. Sometimes I rolled. But I could always remember hole number 9 when I lined up, I hit that drive, and for the first and probably the only time in my life that I can think of, other than that time, I connected with the ball the way it was designed for it to be connected with. I mean, I creamed that shot all the way down. It was perfect. And that's when I noticed as soon as I got the result I was after, boy, my self-efficacy really boosted. My confidence level went up. All of a sudden I'm having a great time out there on the golf course. I've only made one shot in my life, but I got that feeling of, yes, I can do this. Yes, this is possible. And I think that translates over into our sales and business successes as well. So the things that you're sharing, it's so fundamental and so important, whether we are working as a salesperson, whether we are building our own business, valuable wisdom that you're sharing with us. In addition to leading your sales organization, you are also a national speaker, a best-selling author, you're a podcast host. Tell us a little bit about what you're working on right now and anything that you want to share with us that has got you really excited.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for asking about that, Ralph. I really appreciate it. So over the years, I've worked with and influenced a lot of really amazing people who started in Cutco and then went on to do pretty amazing things down the road. Hal Elrod is the author of the Miracle Morning book series that sold well over 1 million books. And he's, influencing people worldwide. And he was a young kid that worked with me for a little while. John Berghoff is a guy that's really revolutionizing how leadership is taught and trained all throughout the world. And, he was a 17-year-old punk kid, came into my sales office and worked with me for 5 years. And there are a number of other amazing success stories. One of the biggest guys at Facebook and one of the top realtors in America who works here in Silicon Valley. And a lot of amazing success stories of people who sold Cutco and are doing other things down the road. And so I'm really excited about being able to share the stories of successful people who, in most cases did some work with Cutco in the past, whether it be for a summer or longer, and what they're doing today, how they got there, and what are the skills that they've gained and what translates to all the other young people. I have a podcast that can be found at changinglivespodcast.com. It's Changing Lives Selling Knives. So it's targeted primarily at the Cutco audience of reps and alumni. But I think the episodes are great for anyone. I alternate between a Cutco alumni and a Cutco current leader. So all of the even numbered episodes are alumni. And I think anybody who's not affiliated with Cutco could easily just listen to all of those and gain some great insights. And so I'm really excited about just sharing those stories because there's so many out there. And I keep learning about another one and then another one and then another one. I got invited to an event by John Levy, who started the Influencers Dinner in New York City and became, one of the more well-known people out there in New York City for in circles of successful people. And he's a Cutco alumni. And I got invited to an event in San Francisco that was hosted in one of the Painted Ladies, those famous houses on Alamo Square. And the owner of the house was a lady named Charlene Lee. And I get to know her and talk to her a little bit. She went to Harvard and is a author of like 5 books now and, really important leader in the business and leadership world. And I come to find out she sold Cutco for a summer in between high school and her first year at Harvard. And so there's just more and more stories that keep coming out of people who worked in the company down, years ago and are doing great things. So I'm excited to be able to share a lot of those stories through the Changing Lives podcast.
Excellent.
And then I would also say that, there's a concept I teach I call the life grades that, we all went through first grade when we were 6 years old or so, right? And then eventually we got to 12th grade, which was the end of high school. And, most people listening probably did 4 more years and got to 16th grade, I guess you could say, when they graduated from college. But a lot of people stopped learning right there at 16th grade. And I'd like to think that at this point in my life, I'm on to, 50, 60, 70th grade in my life because I've continued to learn every single year. And I've been learning more than a year's worth of stuff every year, at least relative to most people. And so just that whole idea of ongoing learning is something I want people to understand the importance of. And some people feel like they don't have time for that, but you wouldn't say I'm too busy driving to stop and get gas. And by the same token, like we all need to be doing something every day that helps us improve. So putting my podcast out there, putting some blogs out there and other writings that I have is my way of sharing some stuff with the world. I share it all willingly and freely with anybody that wants to follow and get the stuff. And I just think that's a valuable way that people can be growing and learning is through, reading, audio learning, and finding ways to share what they're learning with other people and surrounding themselves with others who share the same passion.
That's so important. And what you said, I think you have exemplified a fifth attribute, something that you didn't mention directly, but indirectly by your example. And that is to always be learning and always be growing, always be giving back. A lot of people, when they achieve a certain number of success, a certain level of success, and whatever that is, 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, whatever, they tend to get really comfortable there and they stop. They stop growing, they stop learning, and they say, well, I've achieved my goal. Now I can just rest and take it easy. But I think one of the common traits of the winners and the successful people that we are talking about is they're not content to stay where they are. And it's not because they're dissatisfied. It's because they have a hunger to learn and to grow and to improve, and not just for themselves, but giving back to other people. And so you've really exemplified all of these traits for us, Dan, and I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom with us. Any final thoughts, if we could sum it all up, any final thoughts you'd like to leave our audience with?
Yeah, the last thing I want to leave the audience with is just the idea that it's important to choose a way of thinking that is constructive and that leads you to where you want to be. We all have an ability to choose how we're going to interpret any situation that comes up, to choose how we're going to handle any challenge that comes our way, to choose our thinking every day. I was at a meeting literally 2 days ago, and I had a group of sales managers write down any limiting belief that can prevent them, that is preventing them from achieving the goals that they have. We did this right after everybody sort of writing down some of their highest goals and aspirations. And people took Post-it notes and they wrote their limiting beliefs and stuck them all on a wall. And, everybody kind of went around and, called theirs out and stuck it up there on the wall. And then I got people to kind of move to another part of the wall and to think about what are the opposite of those limiting beliefs. If one of your limiting beliefs is I don't have the time, right? The opposite of that would be, well, I choose how to spend my time. And I can choose to spend my time on what's most important every day. And I had people, come up with the opposite of their limiting beliefs, and everybody put them all on their Post-its and stuck them up on the wall. And I had people stand there and look at those opposite beliefs and just consider that in a moment they can choose those beliefs to be theirs. They can choose those new beliefs to be theirs. And by choosing those new beliefs, they're empowering themselves. They're giving themselves an opportunity to succeed. They're turning their focus in the direction they want to go. And that if people can do that on a daily basis in their life, eventually you train yourself to think and act that way. Napoleon Hill calls it a success consciousness in the book Think and Grow Rich. And it becomes a part of who you are, and it can lead you to amazing success that's beyond what you might even imagine today.
Powerful life lessons and business lessons and sales lessons from Mr. Dan Casetta. He is a record-setting sales executive with Cutco Vector Marketing. He is a national speaker, a best-selling author, and a podcast host who loves learning and sharing good ideas. And Dan, you have certainly done that here on Rebelpreneur Radio today. You can find out more at dancasetta.com or changinglivespodcast.com. Dan, thank you so much for being on Rebelpreneur Radio today. I really appreciate it.
Ralph, I'm grateful to have had the opportunity.
You've been listening to Rebelpreneur Radio with Ralph Brogden. Download the show notes and much more at rebelpreneur.com.